Through Weight Loss by Hers, you can give yourself something to be excited about in 2025. You can spend the new year in control of your weight by losing up to an average of 9 pounds in your first month. This is based on data that real Hers customers have reported based on their personalized compounded GLP-1 treatment plans. Hers is transforming women's healthcare by providing access to affordable weight loss treatment plans, delivered straight to your door if prescribed. Hers offers a holistic weight loss program with personalized solutions, including compounded GLP-1 weekly injections, featuring the same active ingredient as Ozempic and Wegovy or oral medication kits. So if you've been struggling with your weight loss journey, it's time for you to find the best option that works for you through Hers. Start your initial free online visit today at forhers.com/KKC. That's FORHERS.com/KKC for your personalized weight loss treatment options. forhers.com/KKC. Hers weight loss is not available everywhere. Compounded products are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. Restrictions apply. Wegovy and Ozempic are not compounded. Actual price depends on product and plan purchased.
The start of a new year is the perfect time to get organized, set goals, and prioritize what matters most. For me, a top priority is my financial wellness, which feels more important than ever. Thanks to Rocket Money, my goals feel achievable. They show me all of my subscriptions right in one place and help me easily cancel ones that I forgot I've been paying for. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Rocket Money will even try to negotiate lower bills for you. They automatically scan your bills to find opportunities to save. Then you can ask them to negotiate for you. They'll deal with customer service so you don't have to. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/Wondery today. That's rocketmoney.com/Wondery. rocketmoney.com/Wondery.
The amazing Kate Casey.
Welcome back for another episode of Reality Life with Kate Casey. Today's episode is about a true crime case. So if you like all things true crime, this is right up your alley. However, I wanted to forewarn you that we do discuss elements of sexual abuse in this episode. Peter Nygard, a Canadian mogul, at one point the 70th richest Canadian by Canadian Business Magazine, with an estimated net worth of $900 million. But now he's considered the Jeffrey Epstein of fashion. He's the subject of the documentaries Unseemly, the Investigation of Peter Nygard, and Evil by Design, Exposing Peter Nygard. The mogul was born in Helsinki, Finland. His parents immigrated to Manitoba, Canada in 1952 when he was 11. In 1967, he founded Nygard International, a Winnipeg-based company that initially was a sportswear manufacturer before producing women's apparel. In February of 2020, the headquarters of his company was raided as part of a sex trafficking investigation against him by the FBI. After this, he announced that he would step down from the company and divest his ownership interest. The following month, the judge said that there was no evidence that he had actually resigned and that he still owned 100% of the shares of the Nygard group of companies. The company filed for Chapter 15 bankruptcy in New York in March of 2020, and a Manitoba judge ordered a group of the Nygard companies into receivership the following day. He had been accused numerous times of abuse, including forcible confinement, sex trafficking, sexual assault, and sexual harassment. Once in 1968, and then in 1980, the Free Press wrote that Winnipeg police charged him with the sexual assault of an 18-year-old woman. Later, those charges were stayed because she declined to testify. In the 1990s, he settled sexual harassment complaints by 3 former employees in Manitoba. Now, in September of 2024, he was sentenced in Toronto to 11 years in prison for sexually assaulting 4 women. The judge called him a sexual predator. The judge said that he showed no empathy for his victims, who were all attacked in his company's offices. The judge said several aggravating factors in the case was the fact that one of the victims was just 16 years old at the time. He was found guilty of 4 counts of sexual assault, but acquitted of a 5th count as well as 1 count of forcible confinement. Now, he faced separate sexual assault and sex trafficking charges in Montreal, Winnipeg, and the U.S. He has denied all allegations against him. During his trial, there were 5 women whose identities were protected by a publication ban. They testified that they were invited to his Toronto business headquarters under the pretext, ranging from tours to job interviews. All these encounters ended in a top-floor bedroom suite where 4 of the women were assaulted, and multiple women told the jury similar stories of meeting him on a plane, airport tarmac, or at a nightclub, and then receiving invitations to come to his headquarters. So my guest today is Ashleigh Banfield, journalist and host of Banfield on the NewsNation network. Her new podcast series is entitled Drop Dead Serious. For Ashleigh, growing up, Peter Nygard was always Uncle Peter, her best friend's uncle, who would one day become the world's most reviled serial rapist. So the question is, how did it happen? What made him into this monster? Well, she opens up Peter's secret vault of exclusive pictures, videos, phone calls, messages, memos, letters, even his little black book. And together, we can recount the last 40 years, growing up with them, living with them, working for him, and being swept up in the criminal and civil cases that brought down his empire. So in this episode, we discuss her connection to Peter Nygard and the interview she conducted with her best friend, Angela Dyborn, the niece. Angela has been named in lawsuits involving Nygard, accused of enabling him in his alleged sex trafficking scheme. Angela, however, paints a very different picture. Here is my interview with Ashleigh. Ashleigh, you sent me this trailer and it begins. And I was already like, you have got to be kidding me. What in the world? And I feel like you've kept this story kind of secret. I don't think anybody has really kind of known that much. Am I wrong?
A little bit, only because Americans aren't as familiar with Peter Nygard as Canadians are. Canadians, he's Epstein. He's the Epstein of Canada. The name is famous. His lore is famous. He was more famous than Epstein before the crimes became evident. He was just this Hugh Hefner / Fabio figure that was, nearing a billionaire and had come rags to riches and was a big celebrated story, even as skeevy as he was, ladies' man kind of way. Nobody really ever suspected there was this kind of crime undertone that had been going on for decades with him.
So the story begins for him really in Finland, and he moves to Canada at around 11. But I feel like everything I've ever read, he's probably written, like predating the lawsuits. Like he has this like exaggerated sense of self, like he was the greatest businessman and person. In fact, he almost writes as if he had a huge stake in the NAFTA agreements. Like there's some serious delusion on his part.
Yes. He is, without question, one of the most narcissistic people I've ever come in contact with in my life. And I will only say this. Yes, he would write his own story if he could. And he wants me currently to rewrite history and clean up his image for him. And I have always said to him, if I ever do interviews with you, Peter, the other side comes in. That's not what I do. I don't manufacture stories to fix people. I'm a journalist. And I don't think he even hears those words, But I will say this about Peter's story prior to him being crimey, or at least being publicly crimey. There's truth to it because I grew up with him and he was Uncle Peter. I called him Uncle Peter. His niece was my childhood best friend. And so I knew about Peter's story, not just through Peter, through Peter's sister. That's my best pal's mom, and my mom and my best friend's mom were very tight. And my mom was tight with Peter. So I knew the stories well before he needed to fix his public image. They really were just dirt poor. They came from Finland. They had one steamer trunk. I remember growing up knowing that Angela's mom and brother, my best friend Angela's mom and brother, had arrived with one steamer trunk. And I knew the grandparents. I knew Peter and Lisa's mother and father were hardworking, very honest people, as was Lisa, God-fearing, like really, really religious people, which is why it's so bizarre that they have this family member who's just so sinister. But they really were just dirt poor. They had a one-room shack. and there were 2 beds in it. And Lisa and Peter slept in one, the brother and sister, and mom and dad slept in the other. And there was a stove in the middle. There was no plumbing, and it was minus 40 where I grew up in the winter time. And so they would have to go outside to use the facilities. The facilities were a hole in the ground. It's called an outhouse. I grew up with those two, in the hinterland. But at minus 40, going out to go to the bathroom is pretty rough in an unheated outhouse. And they cooked on the stove and they heated the little shack with the stove. So coming from that, I think it's part of the reason he could do no wrong. I think because he found riches and success and catapulted himself into the stratosphere of the most rich and famous all over the world. He was featured on Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous multiple times with Robin Leach. It's why he could do no wrong, not just among people and peers and leaders, but his own family. I think they saw him as so miraculous that anybody who came after him clearly did it for nefarious reasons, wanted something of him, wanted to take him down. But they believed him and they supported him right up until like the day he was arrested.
Post-holiday, sugar crash is real. And parents, let's be honest, finding snacks that satisfy your kids and don't leave them bouncing off the walls isn't exactly easy. That's why I use Thrive Market. They make it simple to find healthier, kid-approved swaps for all of those sugary, junk-filled favorites. And the best part, they've got a healthy swap scanner in the Thrive Market app. It's a total game changer. You scan a product that your kids love, like their favorite chips or crackers, and the app shows a cleaner, healthier alternative. So my kids love Takis. I got them late July Hawaiian habanero chips. Thrive Market also takes the guesswork out of finding safe, healthy food. All of their products are 100% non-GMO and free from over 1,000 harmful ingredients. Plus, their on-site filters make it easy to shop by your family's dietary needs. For example, I eat gluten-free. The best part, everything gets delivered straight to your door, so you don't have to take that stress of searching grocery aisles or reading tiny ingredient lists. Ready for a junk-free start to 2025? Head to thrivemarket.com/Kate Casey and get 30% off your first order, plus a free $60 gift. That's THRIVE market.com/Kate Casey. thrivemarket.com/Kate Casey.
DC, are you ready to start 2025 with incredible live entertainment at Capital One Arena? On February 22nd, comedy takes center stage with the hilarious Joe Coy. Then, on March 17th, feel the energy as Disturbed gets down with the sickness. On March 26th, it's all about the legendary Mary J. Blige bringing soul and power to the stage. And don't miss pop sensation Kylie Minogue on April 8th. Tickets are going fast. Secure yours now at CapitalOneArena.com.
Didn't his mother and his sister both work with him? And was that a strategic move, to your point, where there's no checks and balance, because if they were to say something, it would feel like they were being disloyal to him?
The way the family business was born was that Peter began early in the 60s as a clothier, and it was brilliant. And I remember my mom told me this back in the 70s, like Peter's brilliance was seeing that women were coming into the workforce and had nothing to wear. They were wearing muumuus at home and they were dressing like Beaver Cleaver's mom, June Cleaver. So they had no professional clothing and their husbands wouldn't give them money for it, right? And certainly they had no money for dry cleaning. So he crafted the wardrobe that was like four or five pieces that would get you through the whole week. And you could put it in the washing machine and dryer, polyester. And so my mom was one of these women that was working in 1969 and needed money and needed clothing and still was raising 4 kids and needed to put it in the washing machine and dryer. And so I remember she had a lot of Nygard's clothes and that she told me about that business model. And I thought, God, it's just brilliant. And that's where he made most of his money early. As to the family, his parents were not in the business because they were elderly, but his sister got into the business as well and started her own clothing line. And so they worked sort of in tandem. And then Angela, obviously his sister's daughter, got into the Nygard business. And it's really, there's so many confluences of circumstances as to why she was so entrenched in that business. But she had a baby at 17, no college. She had dropped out of college and she had this baby and kept thinking it was her fault. Meanwhile, the guy, father was 35 years old and married. So it was statutory rape, which she never believed, never even understood to be a rape. She believed it was just the way it was because of the way Peter was.
Mm.
I think Peter ingrained the whole idea that it's women's fault. Women are there for sex. He always showed up to Christmas dinner with like 3 or 4 random unknown women dressed in, prostitute clothing. And that was sort of the way it was in their household. And so I think Angela always believed that was her role and that it was her mistake. And now she had nowhere to go and nothing she could do except work for Peter. And he held on to her like a vice. And she left multiple times because of the verbal and physical abuse, not just on her, but all the employees, and just kept getting sucked back in by the family that said, you're disloyal. You leave the Nygard family. How could you? After all Peter's done for all of us, how could you? It was just a mind F, you know what I mean?
How old are you when you meet the family, or did you just kind of grow up with them because your parents' friendship?
I want to say 12.
Okay.
12, 13. There's a picture of me with Peter, and I'm trying to place it. I recognize the sweater. And I think I had that in like 6th grade, 7th grade. And so, yeah, that's when I became like I was in their house all the time,
Well, it already makes me upset as a mom to think of you as 12 years old around this predator. Did he make you feel uncomfortable? Like, did you ever come home and say, the hairs on the back of my neck?
No. And that's what's so interesting. I've gone back over every moment of time. And my mom as well. Neither one of us was in his crosshairs. And I think the reason is because my mom was such a successful realtor when we were young. And Angela's mom got so much advice from her. So they were really great too. They were both Business Women of the Year of the YWCA. And so I think he admired her. I don't think she was easy prey. I think the women he went after were desperate.
Vulnerable.
They were usually models, vulnerable. They didn't have their own thing going on and needed somebody. And I don't remember any of his women as being tough ball breakers, who could do it on their own. They were always women who needed a contract or needed the modeling or needed thought they'd be the next Mrs. Nygard, and it was never going to happen. And he took advantage of, I don't think he would ever have tried me or my mom because of the family relationship, but also because we were just a little too tough.
So some of the information that she's going to bring forward to you in this series, was this a shock? Or did you have some sort of inkling at any period of time?
No, we knew as teenagers, like, ew, Peter, gross. But you got to get your mind back in the 70s and 80s to when Hugh Hefner was like...
Sure, got away with it all. 90s too.
So, and the 90s and the 2000s. Don't get me wrong here.
Right.
Let's be clear. Harvey Weinstein was still the it man, despite all of his skeevy behavior. Mm-hmm. And so, we all, while we thought like, ew, I'd never go after a guy like that. That's so gross. And what are those girls doing? We didn't think that there were violent rapes going on. Like nobody knew that. And certainly the filth and the defecation and the kink and all that, none of that was known until the lawsuits started coming in and the descriptions came in from the victims. And so while I thought he was skeevy, I thought he was Hugh Hefner. And you know what? As a girl in the 70s, I realized like that's what men aspire to. They all want to be like Hef. Bummer for us, but that's the world we live in.
Also seems like, again, there's this conflict because the narrative that he's promoting is that he's so helpful for immigrants. He provides opportunities for a multitude of people to work, that he's this great, insightful businessman. And and I feel like a lot of them do that. They almost go over the top with the I'm like a hero narrative to counterbalance the fact that they have all this dirty stuff going on in the shadows.
Oh, without a question, it's an MO, right? Epstein, at one point gave $1 billion to environmental cause. And I don't know that he ever actually populated that and funded it. But there's no question that Peter Nygard did a lot of good and did a lot of charity. He, like everything in his life, used hyperbole to describe it and blew it up bigger than it really was. he did help people, and and for that reason, and he always strategically helped, right? Where he knew that it'd be a benefit, like the Bahamian government, Bahamian charities, where most of those rapes were happening.
Yeah,
they were in his pocket. And so nobody would ever think to criticize them. It's the hand that was feeding them oftentimes in these charities.
Here is a riddle for you. What do yoga mats, a toothbrush, and a Hyundai have in common? I'll give you a moment. Time's up. If you guessed they're all fun, well-designed, and super useful, you guessed wrong. The answer is you can order all those things on Amazon. That's right. You can now buy a Hyundai on Amazon. The same place where you order yoga mats, a toothbrush, and pretty much everything else, all from the comfort of your home. And the best part? You won't even have to break down a car-sized Amazon box after, because you'll pick up your Hyundai at the dealer. I mean, picture this. You're in your PJs, snugged in on your couch. You just pull up Amazon on your phone and start the process right there. Just locate a nearby dealer, pick your color, your options, check the price, and with a few dotting of some I's and crossing of some T's, voila! Your Hyundai is ready for pickup. It's that easy. Just remember to put on some real clothes before you head over, will ya? Hyundai, now available on Amazon. Visit HyundaiUSA.com or call 562-314-4603 for more details. Limited availability only through participating Hyundai dealers in select markets.
Each morning, it's a new opportunity, a chance to start fresh. Up First from NPR makes each morning an opportunity to learn and to understand. Choose to join the world every morning with Up First, a podcast that hands you everything going on across the globe and down the street, all in 15 minutes or less. Start your day informed and anew with Up First by subscribing wherever you get your podcasts.
As this series goes along, who are some of the participants that we can look forward to hearing their stories?
The major focus is the inside story from Angela herself. I sat with her for 9 hours and we did a 9-hour interview. And she was able to bring forth a lot of the things she was not able to talk about since the arrest, because she was also being investigated by the FBI and in the Southern District. And so she had to stay very quiet and just wait for that process to play out before she could become public. So the bulk of it is really told through her eyes, not only from childhood and what she observed and some of the inside stories from the family, one of them being a sexual assault of Peter when he was about 6.
I see.
And so a bit helpful to understand maybe why he became this monster. I'm not sure if it's the reason, but it's certainly helpful. And then I speak to experts who actually know more about sexual deviance than I think any of us do, who help to sort of put a lot of this in perspective, why certain things happen, what these certain behaviors might indicate. And that was very helpful. Some of the victims themselves telling their stories in depth of what happened to them when the gates came down, like Jurassic Park in Bahamas, and their passports were taken. And suddenly they'd be there days and days, and he'd be handing them out to friends too, to have their way with it. Just the MO, and of course the attorney representing 135 plus victims who've come forward in a class action lawsuit. He's got remarkable insight into what his clients have all told him. By the way, even though many of his clients are John and Jane Does, 2 of those clients are almost certainly to be given the descriptions of the incidents. His 2 of his sons, who he made men of when they were 14, 15 years old by sending his girlfriend in. And I know that to be true as well, because Angela has told me since then that would be, without question, something he would think would be important to do, make men of them. So he'd send his girlfriend in to make men of them as teenagers.
What is the part that has been the hardest part? What has been the hardest part to wrestle with in making this series? I mean, you're so close to the story too.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, the extent to which these women were abused and drugged and children were abused and drugged, that's just been so painful to sort through, categorize, and just realize the sheer volume and the numbers of victims. So first and foremost, the number of women who are damaged for life. Number 2, my childhood friend, and how her life was destroyed by him. Not only emotionally, she was just battered for the last 30 years, but how he drew her into it, how she became like a victim of his crimes because publicly the public thought she was complicit. Right. They called her Ghislaine Maxwell. They did all these things, and she's never been charged. None of this has happened. But the stories just take fire, and so she's lost everything. She's unable to work. She worked in a school district, and her daughter, had to be under suicide watch for a long time because she was ostracized from the community. Oh, her great uncle is a Epstein, and they just a terrible, terrible series of events that befell them because of their association with Uncle Peter and because they worked for Uncle Peter.
That's awful. Well, is she okay now? I mean, with this series coming out, I hope that she's finding some sort of power, getting her power back.
I think so. It's very, very hard because she herself questions everything that she was always asked to do under duress and pressure. When she buy airline tickets, how are you ever to know that your boss is saying, get these airline tickets, make these travel arrangements, and then he's raping them? And so you technically, if you wanted to go to the letter of the law, you're like a sex trafficker, right? So, and so that the government, can come after you for that, even if you're unknowing. So Angela's learned a lot about federal law and has just wondered herself, I don't get it. Am I a criminal? I don't have this in my heart. I don't know any of this to be my fault, but I feel like they're making it my fault. And certainly the public thinks I am. And so it's been really, really hard for her. And I don't think she'll ever get over it. I think she's without question, a different person now. When I sat with her for 9 hours, I thought, where is my friend from so long ago? Then I come to find out that there had been 3 rapes that she never told me about as a teenager. And I'm starting to realize how much effect Peter had on her because she figured that all that was her fault. She put herself.
She definitely thought that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I shouldn't have been at that party, or I shouldn't have been drunk. And, so I just see how the environment he created in that family created an environment for her to never know what her rights were and when she could have run for it.
It's like an emotional stranglehold. For sure. Last question. He's angry. He's angry you're doing this series?
He doesn't know what the series is. He thinks I'm always going to do something to, fix his legacy. And so we're still working on an interview from prison, but he just got moved. And so he was in jail before and he had a phone because he's infirm in his single cell. And now he's been moved to a federal prison from jail. And so now he doesn't have the kind of luxury to get on the phone as easily. He's got to go to a phone bank. He can barely walk. And there are all these other prisoners. And he's a sex criminal. So a little hard for him to, be safe. And there's an epic battle brewing right now between him and the prison officials about the circumstance they put him in. And he thinks he's going to be murdered. So it's a little hard to get that interview. But I get his emails. I'm copied on all of them. And so it's just I don't know that I'll get to talk to him about it. And certainly when he finds out that I'm basically spilling the beans and honestly telling the entire story and what he did to his own niece and the environment that he's left her in, circumstance he's left her in, that he's destroyed her life, who knows if he'll talk to me? Who knows?
I think he might. He's that much of a narcissist.
It's true. It is true.
Well, when can everybody listen to the first episode? Because the trailer right now you can go listen to. When does the first episode drop? Yeah,
trailer's out now. And I'm going to drop the first 2 episodes. So they're an hour each. And they're YouTube compatible too. So I've got a lot of video in there of stuff that came out of the vault. Images and pictures and videos from the Bacchanalia orgy parties in the Bahamas and in California. I mean, it's just crazy. That comes out on the 23rd, Thursday the 23rd. And then each subsequent week, I'll drop another episode. And then once it's all done, I'll have Angela back to talk about everything since. And Peter since, all the communications I've had with him since. And then we'll move to an always on sort of situation where every week I'll be discussing the biggest crimes and criminal true crime stories of the week.
Which is everything that the listeners right now love. So thank you. And then everybody else can watch you on NewsNation. All the time.
Every night at 10 Eastern. That's the one where I'm regular. Every night, rain or shine, where we do our show at 10 Eastern. And it's a true crime show. We've been doing a lot on the California fires, but as it happens, of course, there's crime. There's looters and scammers and arsonists doing their thing to ruin everyone else's safety and security.
And I just want to say the work that you guys have done on the fires, I really appreciate, especially living in Southern California. I look to other channels. I'm like, why are you not covering this? You have done it so well. So we appreciate. And I know that there were some nights you probably were up quite late. So our thank you from Southern California.
I appreciate it. We were committed to doing this story without the politics, because everyone else seems to think politics is important while people are still running for their lives.
Right. Thank you again.
Thanks, Kate.
The amazing Kate Casey.
I want to thank my great guest, Ashleigh, and to remind you to click subscribe, leave a 5-star review. Please join the Facebook group Reality Life with Kate Casey. You can get my must-watch list at katecasey.substack.com. I'm going to tell you what to watch in unscripted television every week. Bonus episodes by going to Patreon, patreon.com/Kate Casey. And please follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram at @KatecaseyCA, TikTok, it's Kate Casey, Twitter, Threads, Blue Sky at Kate Casey. Check back tomorrow for an all-new episode.
Hello, it's Dan Harris from the 10% Happier podcast. Is the whole New Year, New You thing getting a little overwhelming? Wondery's New Year, New Mindset collection has the essentials to help you have your best year yet and to do it simply and sanely. From 10% Happier and Daily Stoic for personal growth to Unruffled for parenting wisdom, we've got you covered. Boost your creativity with the best idea yet. Get inspired by Baby, This is Kiki Palmer, or dive deep with Armchair Expert. Listen to New Year, New Mindset right now on the Wondery app.